Kamala Harris and your IRA. Hey everyone, Adam Bergman here, a tax attorney and founder of IRA Financial. On today's Adam Talks, what would a Kamala Harris presidency mean for your IRA? So we've all been pretty much expecting the news that we received on Sunday, July 21, that President Biden was dropping out of the 2024 presidential race. Not a shock after watching the debate and kind of following the Biden trail over the last couple of years. I personally thought this was going to happen. I actually told a friend, I bet he drops out this weekend. Just kind of got COVID in Vegas or Nevada and just kind of dropped out of the scene. I just felt behind the scenes, people were pushing him out. And once some of the rank and file Democrats started publicly saying he needed to step down and move away, I knew it was going to be Harris. For pretty much the reason is she needs to tap into the campaign money. They have $100 million in the bank, so it was going to be Kamala Harris. So what does that mean? I think in general, and I've done a podcast several weeks back on Trump and Biden and some of the IRA and tax, items that we could consider to, or at least expect to occur. And I'll go through some of the Biden, corporate individual tax and IRA items that I think Harris would follow through. I think a lot of the Kamala Harris presidency will follow the lines of a Biden, but there are specific rules, regulations, tax, and retirement legislation that she has supported in the past as a senator. So let's go through them. So the first one is she's been very supportive of pension plans. She actually co-sponsored a bill called the Butch-Lewis Act that would establish pension rehabilitation administration within the Treasury Department to issue loans to multiple employer plans that are in critical and declining status. So any type of plan that wouldn't be able to meet its pension obligation, she was supporting legislation that would issue emergency loans. So again, positive. And it goes to the theme of a Biden-Harris administration, which is definitely very supportive of labor unions, and also in some cases retirement plans. Social Security, just like Biden, she has been very at the forefront of making sure Social Security will be there. She co-sponsored the Social Security Expansion Act, bill that would increase Social Security benefits across the board, would increase minimum benefits for certain individuals, would use the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, for the elderly to make cost of living adjustments. It also would continue benefits up to the age of 22 for children of deceased or disabled individuals. Okay. Social Security taxes. This is something Biden had in his 2025 budget, or at least the theme of imposing a payroll tax at 12.4%. is split equal between employees and employers on income of over just 250,000, where Biden was at a higher range of 400,000, to raise the current net investment tax from 3.8 to 10%. So pretty significant tax increases on payroll taxes, Social Security taxes, to help the Social Security system. The interesting thing is this is pegged at individuals who make 250,000 or more, which is much lower than the Biden threshold of 4 to 450. Just like President Biden, she wants to raise taxes, do away from the 2017 Trump tax cuts. She has discussed doing away with the, as I mentioned, all the corporate tax reductions. She wants to, for the top 1%, impose higher taxes and making the top 1% and corporations pay their fair share through a more progressive income payroll and estate tax. She didn't really get into the details, but we know President Biden from his 2025 budget, which you could assume Vice President Harris would support it. He wanted to increase the corporate tax rate from 21 to 28%. He wanted to increase the alternative minimum tax from 15 to 21%. He wanted to really stop excess business limitations for individuals. He wanted to expand the net investment tax to reach 5% of income of 400,000, and she wanted it to go. Kamala Harris wanted it to go much higher. Biden also wanted to increase the individual income tax to 39.6 for those earning 400,000 or 450,000 married or filed jointly. He also wanted to increase long-term capital gains for income above $1 million. He also wanted to increase capital gains for unrealized capital gains above 5 million. And he wanted to limit retirement contributions for high income taxpayers with large IRA balances. And that's, something that I think you could expect a presidency, Harris presidency to do. It'd probably be a little bit more progressive and a little bit more left than Biden. I think she'd be more inclined to appease the more progressive wing of the party, including Senator Wyden, who's been pretty vocal about limiting large retirements back in 2021 with the Build Back Better bill. He certainly was vocal about trying to limit big IRAs, limit big Roth IRAs, and have additional restrictions on certain retirement investments. I'm not sure that's going to be at the forefront of her potential tax budget or any future legislation, but it's something that I think is say on the table, but kind of as an appetizer, it's something to consider. But definitely you can expect higher individual taxes, higher capital gains tax, higher corporate tax. She talked about paying Medicare for all, which is something she talked about when she ran for president back in 2020. Basically having a public medical system like Canada, which I was born into, and you don't want to have the government running your healthcare. Trust me, it's not very favorable. I can talk to you about hours. Impacted my family tremendously. Basically killed my father. Having a public health system, so I'm definitely not in favor of that. I think the way the U.S. system's not perfect, but I think having Medicaid for those who can't afford it, and then having the ability to buy private or enhanced medical for those who can afford it is probably a better model. But she's talked extensively of having a medical for all, and she's going to need to get the money for that. So that's going to go towards higher income taxes, corporate taxes, and capital gains tax. She also talked about increasing the estate tax, getting rid of loopholes for the ultra wealthy, and basically having increased estate tax for the top 1%. She actually sponsored something called the Lift for the middle class, which was a bill that would provide refundable tax credits of up to $6,000 to married households earning less than 100K, and $3,000 for single filers earning less than 50K. And they could choose to receive this credit in equal monthly payments throughout the year. This isn't a bad idea. I talked about this in the past. I would prefer it went into a Roth IRA instead of just a free handout. I don't think tax credits are that helpful if you are a low-income taxpayer. It doesn't really move the needle, but putting it into a tax-deferred account that maybe could be used to pay education or pay first-time home buyer expenses, that to me is more interesting. But that's all we kind of have, right? Her run for presidency was short-lived back in 2020. She was a senator for a short period of time. Obviously, we know she's a prosecutor. But I think looking at the Biden plan, the Biden budget for 2025, I think you can get an idea of where she leans. I think she probably leans a little bit more left than President Biden, especially on progressive tax items. She's talked about that. It's very important for her to pay for medical for all, pay for enhanced Social Security. And the only way to do it is to increase taxes. So if you look at former President Trump, who's talked about reducing corporate taxes, reducing individual taxes, trying to stimulate the economy through reduced taxation, I think you're going to get, I think you would get the opposite side here, where it would be increased taxation in a way, not necessarily to focus on stimulating the economy, but in a way to pay for public medical system, like a medical for all, which he talked about, and increase Social Security. So I do think she's going to be, if she did win, I think she would be very pro worker, which is good. She'd, I think, be supportive of U.S. retirement system. I don't think she'd be very supportive of big IRAs, but it's very minimal issue. There's less than 1,000 so people that have more than $10-15 million in an IRA. It's not a big problem, but it's a good talking point. It shows that she's trying to go after the super rich, and that's something that her and part of the left side of the Democratic Party have been focused on showing they're anti-rich, anti-millionaires, anti-billionaires. And I think this is just kind of an easy mark, an easy check mark she can say, hey, look what I'm doing to fight the rich. But it's not going to really make a difference to you and me. But overall, increased taxes, individually, corporate, capital gains. Specifically, we'll see if she keeps the Biden threshold of 400 and 450. In the past, she's talked about 250 for increased Social Security taxes. So we'll see where that goes. But definitely expect higher taxes. Push for a universal public medical system like Canada, where that's where she actually grew up. She went to high school in Montreal, kind of right where I grew up, about 5 minutes from where I grew up, which is interesting. I think she would be protective of Social Security. She'd be protective of the U.S. retirement system. So that's positive. But that's where we stand today. There's not a lot of information and details about what she's put forward, obviously, because only July 21st is when President Biden basically announced he's not going to run for the presidency going forward. So she's going to need to formulate policy, and there's only a few months for her to do so. So I'm sure she's going to get cracking. So if there are any updates to this, I will make sure to get that across to you guys. But it's basically Biden 2.0 with more of a left-wing flavor, but kind of the same policy. So that's it for today's podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, this is not a political podcast. I'm not telling people if it's good, bad, just trying to get ahead of where she'll go if she won the presidency in 2024 and what to expect. And that's up to you to decide what that means for you and how you vote. The most important thing is definitely vote. Whether you vote Democrat, Republican, or write in a candidate, vote. That's one of the most important rights we have. Either way, the country will be great. We're the best country in the world. The Democrats win, Republicans win, country will be fine. But from a tax standpoint, not necessarily a retirement standpoint, I think both Trump and Harris will be very supportive of the U.S. retirement system because it works, and so many hundreds of millions of Americans are tapped into it. But you could expect higher taxes across the board for folks that are in middle upper class. Low income, probably not. Will it impact the economy? I don't know. I mean, Trump's talked about posing tariffs that could cause inflation. Public medical system, the only way to pay for that is increased taxes. How will that impact the economy? Remains to be seen. That's not my expertise. My expertise is to focus on retirement, taxation, alternative assets. And this podcast really just want to focus on Kamala Harris presidency and the impact on you and my taxes, individual, corporate, the state, and obviously from the retirement system, which is pretty bipartisan. There's no one out there that's going to be talking about retirement accounts as their primary issue. There's not much change. It works. The only thing to be on the lookout is would she go after major big IRAs, 10 million plus, which honestly, who cares? There's not that many people that are impacted. I'm against it, just for the record. I don't think the government should be limiting people's wealth. If people were good investors, you shouldn't cap people, especially in a Roth IRA where there's not a tax impact. But we'll see how it plays out. Otherwise, appreciate you guys hanging out with me today. I know it's summer. There's a lot more important things to do, fun things to do, but I think it's important to just understand and get a good snapshot of what a Harris presidency would mean potentially for your tax outlook and your IRA. So that's it. Have a great day, and I will talk to everyone again next week. Thanks.